Joining us to talk more about the Chicago area immigration-related issues is U.S. Representative Jonathan Jackson of Illinois. Congressman, it's really great to have you here with me today.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
All right, so we just watched that story. It focuses on a specific moment where ICE agents had to deploy defensive measures, specifically tear gas, outside of that Chicago public school. It forced, or it at least triggered, a lot of these volunteers coming forward to try to protect students from actually confrontations with ICE, or potentially they come from immigrant families. What's your general reaction to what we're seeing here in Chicago, the fact that Chicagoans are taking steps like these to try to protect kids?
Well, it's the trauma that we have to deal with. Governor Greg Abbott of Texas, in his Project Lone Star State, used federal funds and state funds to ship 30,000 people in the migrant community up here, people that are most vulnerable in the nation. Now they're saying they need to bring in ICE agents and to bring in the National Guard to fix the problem that they've created. We can deal with this in a humane way. Children in the city of Chicago do not need to be smelling tear gas. Citizens do not need to hear a bang and boom and their doors kicked in. We still live under the Constitution. There's still the clauses of probable causes. If you suspect someone of being in there, you go get a court order warrant so that you can go in. You don't kick in residents' doors. In my neighborhood in South Shore, on 75th and South Lakeshore Drive, citizens, U.S. citizens, had their doors kicked in and were met with a gun barrel. I mean, U.S. citizens were zip-tied and put on the streets. U.S. citizens that were veterans were also attacked. So this has now gone beyond what President Trump first said. He was going after felons. Now he's going after families.
Yeah, you bring up Governor Abbott, the fact that hundreds of migrants were bussed up here from Texas. Thousands, excuse me. It's funny because it really does feel like what came first, chicken or the egg, because Governor Abbott didn't just do that because he hates Chicago. He did it with the idea that Chicago is a sanctuary city. And so he says, if you want to open up your doors to migrants, well, then I'll gladly send them up from Texas.
But he also said that he was going to put it to 6 cities that were Democratic strongholds. So this was very targeted. And the problem that Governor Greg Abbott had, besides it being indecent and inhumane, is that if you have one child on that bus that's unaccompanied, a child that's unaccompanied with an adult, that is trafficking. That is trafficking in minors. He should have been met with the full force of the federal government then. Last year, I had written off into the Biden administration to the Department of Justice and to the Department of Homeland Security, as well as to the Health and Human Services, to stop the trafficking of children. So yes, there are children in the city of Chicago that are unaccompanied by adults that Governor Greg Abbott sent here, and he's never been held accountable.
Again, the catalyst for the Guardian Angels program was that moment where DHS and federal agents deployed their tear gas in the city streets. We reached out to DHS about it. They said they only did that because they were boxed in, that people were impeding the arrest, the targeted arrest that they were going after. And again, we hear from DHS that assaults on federal agents are up 1,000%. So I just wonder whether or not the public in general needs to take some level of accountability, some level of responsibility. The tear gas was deployed. Yes, it came into the mouths, the eyes, the noses of the children, but it only came after the confrontation with ICE. What's your response to that?
Well, we're looking at the president. He's also being an insurance salesman, an arsonist, and also has the fire department. He's creating the problem. He's trying to deflect. We should be back as lawmakers in Washington, D.C. The government is shut down. What the president is doing right now is unconscionable. He's creating this problem. Now, under the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878, you're not supposed to put U.S. soldiers on American grounds to go up against its own citizens, and certainly not without the cooperation or the request of the United States of a U.S. governor. He is now convoluting all the different agencies between the police, between the National Guards, and between this unaccountable agency called ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency. Why are they focused purely on America? And then he's also talked about creating this, he's called American citizens the enemies within. And those violent words that he said before the United States military, now those words have come to light. He is attacking with the United States military. So people are showing resistance. I'm absolutely abhorrent to any form of violence. There is no place for that. But these soldiers and these persons that are going around with masks or hoods on their heads, snatching women, throwing them on the ground, putting them in budget rental cars and budget vans has to stop.
We only have about 20 seconds left. I'm wondering whether or not you've had a chance to stop by the Broadview immigration facility that's here. We had 2 senators try just a couple days ago. They were denied access. The huge claim that we hear from protesters over and over is a lack of transparency. Are you hearing anything about being able to possibly get in there, see what's actually the conditions are like there for the people that are being arrested before deportation?
I've tried to go with Congressman Chuy Garcia, Congresswoman Dalia Ramirez, Congressman Danny Davis. We went over there, and as lawmakers, co-equal branches of government, we've been denied our opportunity to have oversight. We have heard about deplorable conditions of women having to sleep on floors, people not having access to proper hygiene materials, and we've been turned away as lawmakers. They're in violation of the law.
Well, that's something that we'll continue to try to push. Congressman Jackson, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.